Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, and this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, or like we like to call it, Fireday. It's Fireday here on the old radio ranch. Welcome back to the program. It is that one day a week that we dedicate to the Second Amendment and talking about gun rights and everything else. This is the the finale for the year. This is the final Firearm Friday of this season, and we're hoping to have some great we're hoping to have some great stuff on today and talk about some good stuff and just get it out of our system for the rest of the year. It should be fantastic. I can't wait for you guys. We're going to start off here in just a few moments with Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine. He's going to be coming on board and joining us. And we'll be talking about his latest piece. He's got a new one on Hunter Biden, which just came out late yesterday, and what's happening with his struggle with gun laws. He apparently has become a Second Amendment warrior. When we weren't looking, Hunter Biden became the new face of the war on the Second Amendment, and then. We're going to talk about his article about the Second Circuit, which is apparently trying to reinterpret Bruen in a little bit of a lighter way. They well, anyway, it's a full thing. We're going to talk about that as well, and we might even get into California as well. So it's a jam-packed discussion coming up with Jacob Sullum this morning from Reason Magazine. He'll be joining us here in just a few. Then in hour 2, we'll take some phone calls. We'll talk with you. We'll see what you have to say on this final Firearms Friday. Maybe you guys can tell us, what you're hoping for under the tree in the way of firepower. Are you looking to get something new under the tree? And you can tell us all about that. And we'll get a chance to just chit-chat and hang out. And then we will finish up the show with Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. Willie will come on board, and we'll do the final entertainment, streaming, and movie report for the end of the year. So that should be a fun time. A fun time will be had by all. And we'll be hanging out and doing that in hour 2. Okay, what is new here to begin with before we get going on too far? Well, 3 below zero right here at the old homestead this morning. A little chilly, but folks down on the peninsula are expecting something even better, up to 7 inches of snow and winds gusting as high as 40 miles per hour on the Kenai Peninsula. And so a little cold, little snow, and even down in Anchorage, even though it's cold, they're expecting another 2 inches of snow in Anchorage today as well. I haven't seen the Fairbanks forecast yet, but it is what it is. Just welcome to it, and Merry Christmas, your white Christmas. You could thank me later. This is what I get for asking you all to help me do the snow dance or the anti-snow dance. so that we don't have snow till after Halloween. But I'm still going to do it next year. That's just how it's going to roll around here. I wanted to stay away from the white stuff as much as I could. All right. What else we got? Oh, the holiday recipe contest still going on. We'll announce the winner on Wednesday. And for those of you who haven't heard about it, which I can't imagine it's many of you, if you've listened to the show at all, we have a holiday recipe contest where we share our favorite family recipes that we, for the holidays that we probably only cook once a year. And you put it up and you post it in the comments on our Facebook page. We've got a pin post up there at the top. And you just post your recipe in the comments, and then you send it to all your friends so that they come in and share it with you, and they like it and thumbs up it and do everything else. And then whoever is the winner is going to get a chance to, you can take either a bag of beard curler coffee, which is my own personal coffee blend, and a coffee mug from the show, 6 o'clock Club coffee mug, which, by the way, welcome to. You're all 6 o'clock Club members. Or they can get a pair of certificates to point blank firearms and self-defense for basic pistol courses, which is about a $250 value, I believe, $260 value. And so you and a friend, if you live in the South Central area, you can go to Palmer and take that up at their shop there in Palmer. So you get to choose one or the other, and then the runner-up gets whatever's left over. So there you go. That's the thing. That's the dealio. So that's all the housekeeping done for today. What do we got? What's on the agenda today? Well, the one story that I have to laugh over, but it's not funny, but at the same time, I guess I would say this: actions have consequences. I know that's hard to believe. I know in this day and age that nobody wants to believe that if you do something, it's not our fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's always somebody. It's the environment. It's how we were raised. It's the victim. It's not us. It's not us. Actions have consequences. Enter this story. Remington Firearms. Remarms is the actual name of the company for Remington these days, is shutting down its New York State plant. Now, this isn't news because it's been going on for a long time. They've been threatening it. They've been talking about it. And, they finally pulled not to be too punny, but they've pulled the trigger on it. More than 2 centuries in a single place is quite a feat. Not many companies can say they spent 200 years in the same location. But here it is. They got it done. But now that's all over. But that isn't the end of it. Now there is a debate over why Remington is moving its operations completely. Republican leaders, including U.S. Rep. Elise Stefanik and State Senator Mark Walznick, who both represent the village of Ilion, which is where Remington was, have blamed New York's unconstitutional gun grab policies, as Stefanik said, for the company's closure of the plant. Now, Remington Arms, which has been manufacturing there since the original company declared bankruptcy, Rem Arms, which was Remington Arms, the reorganized company is called Rem Arms, declared bankruptcy in 2020, announced that the closure of the Ilion plant will come with them moving the New York manufacturing operations to their new Georgia headquarters. Rem Arms is excited to expand our facilities in Georgia, a state that not only welcomes business, but enthusiastically supports and welcomes companies in the firearms industry, the company said in an email statement. Now, on the flip side of the coin, the United Mine Workers of America, who represent the Ilion Remington factory's hundreds of workers, disagreed that the blame for the plant closures rested in the state's gun laws. They said, quote, "It's not our understanding or our belief whatsoever that this has anything to do with the laws. They're obviously moving to a very non-union state." Now, the union obviously not happy with the fact that Remington is moving to a non-gun state or to a non-union state, right to work state. But I think that that's more of a fringe benefit at this point. Rem Arms has been pretty explicit about saying that they're going to Georgia because it's not an anti-gun state, that they're going to a place that welcomes firearms manufacturers, not treats them like they have syphilis and scurvy combined or leprosy or something, right? I mean, this is what they're doing. Now, the fact that it is a right to work state probably doesn't hurt them. I mean, that's probably just like chef's kiss, cherry on the top. I mean, why would Remington want to keep work? Why would anybody? This is the same question that I had for several other companies. Detonics was one. What was the name of the company that did all the FAL stuff? I'm trying to remember the name of the. Oh man, I bought some of their stuff, and I'm trying to think of. Anyway, they were in Illinois, like on the outskirts of Chicago. I'm like, why would anybody want to have a manufacturing business in any of these states? Now, Remington obviously has been there for 200 years. They were there well before all the no-neck do-gooders got involved and were trying to shut them down. They were just there, and it was easier to try and deal with it. But they finally just said, no, we can't do it anymore. Why would any company want to work in a state that was actively hostile to the legal product that they produced? Right? I mean, that's like Ford Motor Company. You know, that was back in the Detroit days, you know, when Ford or Chrysler or something, they were trying to do something in a state where their vehicles were continually trying to outlaw the vehicles, right? It just makes no sense whatsoever. But, you know, but you think even deeper. Go back again to the union workers. You've got the United Mine Workers, which has a long history of favoring Democrats, of course. That's the same party that routinely favors gun control. Most politicians with a D after their name, you know, favor restrictions on 2A rights. But you just think about that for a minute. The United Mine Workers Union has a long history of favoring the very candidates that would have put their own members out of work. I'm trying to wrap my brain around that, and I just can't possibly do it. And they've got a whole list. The Union Times has got a whole list of all the people that have been recently endorsed by the United Mine Workers, and you don't see a lot of conservative folks on that agenda. I mean, it's not surprising that they're trying to make this about Georgia's position on right to work, but you know, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? Makes no sense. The bottom line is that New York got its way. The same way that California is getting their way with all the people who are mass exiting California after they continue to crank the taxes up. The same way that New York City has gotten its way by cranking the taxes up so high that it's driving the wealthy and other entrepreneurs and folks out into other places. That's why there's a huge influx in places like Florida and Texas, because people you're driving them out. And then you wonder, how did this happen? How's it? You know, New York has been hostile to the Second Amendment for the last 100 years. And now they're reaping. It was a long harvest season. It was a long growing season, but now you're finally reaping what you sowed. Actions have consequences. And I think you'll see this more and more. And it won't just be firearms industry. It'll be other industries that will just pick up and go. I remember when Magpul, for those of you who don't know, Magpul is a company that produces polymer magazines. It was it was really one of the fledgling companies that started that whole kind of movement and then became the preeminent company to do that. They provide magazines. I mean, I'm sure now they've got government contracts and everything else, but they started out in California. And they finally pulled the pin and left California because it was too much. You know, they couldn't do it. They couldn't survive in California under their anti-gun tyranny. And so is it surprising that you see these multi-million-dollar businesses move out of the state? I mean, that's a loss of revenue. It's a loss of jobs. It's a loss of everything else. But none of that matters as long as the politicians can polish their knuckles on their chest and go, look at us. We're the anti-whatever warriors. As long as they can virtue signal, it doesn't matter what it does to the economy. Doesn't matter what it does to the people. Doesn't matter what the legalities are of it. If they feel like they're right, they're going to do what they can do. But again, this is just a story about how actions have consequences. And like I said, it's been a long time coming. That they sowed those seeds a long time ago, and they've nurtured them, and they've weeded them, and they've kept at it, and they just kept at it. And all of a sudden they're shocked, I tell you, when this is what pops up out of the ground for them to harvest. Oops, sorry. Oh, man. All right. We're going to continue here in just a minute. Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine is going to be joining us in just a hot second. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back with more. And Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine right after this.
Marty was pumped for Christmas.
Woo, I'm pumped for Christmas. Ow!
So Marty just bought himself everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Because Marty has no friends.
That turned dark.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
Oh, that turned dark. That turned dark. Oh, man. Woo, baby. Man, I got into reading stories and everything, and I looked up, and it was like a minute and a half before the show was supposed to start. I was like, whoa, wait a second. I got to launch. Eject. Okay. Alaska, what was that? Alaska is not a right to work state either, says Donna. Man, wouldn't it be awesome if we could get a major firearms manufacturer to come? Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, I would be totally down with that. Absolutely. Dukes. What was that? Common sense gun controls? Yeah, I'm sorry. I just, Oh, gosh. All right, where are we at? 34 below in Salcher right now. God, I'm so glad I don't live in Fairbanks anymore. I love you all in Fairbanks, but you could keep that. I mean, it's -3 below at my house right now. That's what my secret computer thing here is selling me, is that it's 3 below. It keeps bouncing back and forth between -2 and -3. That's enough for me. Thank you. Yep. And let's see. It's Friday already. Oh, man. Don't cry about it, Rick. It's good it's Friday. This is my final Friday of the year. Brian says, my Duke's mug is in my office and it's cold, but will the coffee taste right without the mug? Well, go heat it up, Brian. Just go heat it up. It'll be fine. No white Christmas in Michigan, says Donna. Well, Donna, you'll just have to move up here to God's country, and then you can enjoy some of that stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah, 60 inches of snow in the South Central area. 40 inches in November, 20 inches in December. I can't wait to see what next month brings. That's all I'm saying. All right. Good morning, Gordon. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Amy. At least there's no snakes in Alaska. Well, they are some in suits down in Juneau. But other than that, you're right. No venomous snakes. I mean, there are some snakes. Yeah, Tawny added a recipe. Oh, nice. Tawny added a recipe to the recipe contest. We're going to see if we can get Jacob Sullum to put his favorite family recipe on the recipe page as well. So it'll be fun. Man, Yeah. Mike said he had a dog sled ride yesterday and it was 30 below. And he's got to ride again this morning at 10 a.m. Better you than me, brother. Better you than me. All right. I think I'm all caught up. I'm all caught up on all the comments this morning. Ooh, I got that Firearms Friday feeling. Firearms Friday feeling. All right. I see Jacob is in the green room. And let me get my aspect all squared away here, and we'll go over. I think he's ready. Oh, he's muted still, so maybe he's setting stuff up. We'll get him. We want to check him out. We're about 1 minute away from returning to the radio, so we'll do that here in just a hot second. And we will. Oh, he's all ready. I think he's ready. Let's check it out. See how he's doing. We'll add him right now. Good morning, Mr. Sullum. Whoops, sir. How are you, my friend? Let me give you here. There you go. There's an aspect you can live with. How about that? How you doing, Jacob? I don't think Jacob can hear me. Can you hear me? No. I don't know as Jacob can hear me. We might have to do this. Can you hear me, Jacob? Can you hear me, Jacob? I can hear him, but he can't hear me. All right. Well, let's can you hear? Let's try this. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay, welcome back. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free-Thinking Radio. Jacob Sullum is our guest here on the program. And I'm just, we're having, I don't know what the last couple of days have been like, but it's like this technical issue where we're having a hard time trying to, we can hear them, but they can't hear us kind of thing. So we're going to see if we can try this out one more time here. And we will see if he can reconnect and get the get him squared away. Recon. I'm trying to. It's always better. We'll try this one more time. I'm going to pull him back out of the room, and we will try this one more time. It is Firearms Friday. Don't forget that next week on the program, we're going to, it's going to be all Christmas all the time. All Christmas all the time. We're going to start with just you and me on Monday. And then on Tuesday, it's going to be Brad Keithley and Chris Story with the weekly top 3, but it's going to be the Christmas top 3. And we're going to be hanging out with Chris Story in hour 2 for a couple segments as well. Then on Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Mike Shower for Christmas Memories for the final show of the year. We're going to try this one more time here. I'm going to try this one more time here and see if I can bring Jacob back up onto the stage. And we'll try it one more time. Jacob, can you hear me, my friend?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I don't know what was going on. It's one of those technically difficult weeks. I've had this happen twice already this week, and I'm like, what's going on? How are you doing, my friend? How are things going?
I'm doing all right. I just had my blood drawn for life insurance, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Are you feel a little woozy? Do you need a cookie and some orange juice? Or
no, I think I'll be okay.
think you'll do it.
She only took a few vials.
She only took a few gallons. It's no big deal. I'll walk it off. It 'tis but a flesh wound, so it'll be all good. Well, welcome to the program, and I appreciate you coming on. I know it's late in the season, and I know a lot of you guys are kind of getting ready to head off into vacation land. So I appreciate you. Taking some time out here to talk with us today. First and foremost, just be glad you're not here. It's somebody just reported it's 3 below at my house right now, but my friends up in Fairbanks are saying it's 30 below, 36 below out at where I used to live out in Fairbanks right now. So I know you're enjoying a little bit warmer weather than that down there.
It is in the 50s and raining in
Okay.
Dallas.
Well, there you go. 50s and raining. We do have a white Christmas, at least on our end. We are going to have a white Christmas, so it's going to be fine. Jacob, we got a lot to cover here, but the one that really kind of caught my attention, I mean, I'd like to talk about Hunter Biden here at one point, but the story that really caught my attention is your latest piece from a couple days ago about the Second Circuit. Now, of course, the Bruen decision was a big deal because it set up that whole thing about historical frameworks and everything else. And people were saying, well, there's going to be a lot of things they can't do. But we're seeing here that the Second Circuit Court has decided to apply it in a little bit of a different way. So give us some backstory here about what's going on in New York with the Second Circuit and what's going on.
Yeah, well, what happened in New York is that, of course, they were at the center of that Supreme Court case. And the Supreme Court said that they could not require applicants for carry permits to demonstrate proper cause. That was asking for a special justification when this was a right that belonged to everyone to carry guns for self-defense outside the home. So New York had to eliminate that. That much was clear. But they retained another criterion, good moral character, which they had before, and with the new legislation, they defined it to basically as having the right kind of temperament and character to have a gun. So that's not really that useful as a definition. And one of the questions about this new law was, is that okay? Because that seems to give the licensing authority a lot of discretion to decide you're not the sort of person who ought to have a gun. And in fact, a federal judge last year said that was not cool, that by the logic of Bruen, this licensing regime was unconstitutional because nobody really knows what good moral character means. And, somebody might apply it in good faith and say, well, you were accused of beating your wife, and we think that means you don't have the right moral character. But it also could be any number of things that suggest that maybe he thinks you're a hothead or he doesn't like you for one reason or another.
Well, there's a component of due process in there too, as well, right? Because it becomes not an affirmative right. You have to prove, right? I have to prove that I'm a good person to exercise the right instead of giving me the right and me exercising it without your approval. And that's where the real crux was.
Yeah, and they're if they deny a license on that basis, they're supposed to explain why. So there is some process, and then you can say, well, that's not a good reason, and you can challenge it, whatever. But the question is, was this too open-ended? This federal judge last year said it was. The Second Circuit said, no, it's fine, because their argument was that this was a facial challenge, that the claim against the law was that it was facially unconstitutional, which means it has to be unconstitutional in every application. And they said it's true that you could imagine somebody applying the standard in a way that was arbitrary and was therefore a violation of the Second Amendment, but also people might apply it in good faith, focusing on the dangerousness of the person, right? So they said that was okay. And that's interesting because that language appears. California actually had that language, and I believe they got rid of it when they changed their law, along with a requirement that was similar to proper cause. And some other states do have phrase it that way, and they may interpret it narrowly or broadly. And so that's going to be an issue that will come up, I think, repeatedly. So that was one thing the Second Circuit did. But they did agree with the judges, Glenn Sotheby. Sotheby also said that they could not constitutionally demand information about your social media accounts. So applicants were supposed to say any social media account they've used in the last 3 years, supply the information about it. one of the problems with that is that you have the right to speak online under a pseudonym without actually identifying yourself. That's a constitutional right.
Right.
And so they're basically saying, no, you have to out yourself, and we need to know everything, every name that you've posted under, so that we can see if you're, do you have good moral character, for example, so we can investigate you to see if, are you the sort of person who ought to have a carry permit. And then, of course, it's also a Second Amendment issue. Is it reasonable to condition your exercise of this right on supplying this information? And so the Second Circuit agreed with Sotheby that was not cool. The state can't do that.
Right.
And then the other big part of this decision dealt with restrictions on locations where you can have guns, even if you have a permit. Right. So you have your permit.
Right. You've jumped through all the hoops. Right. You've done everything that they've asked you to do.
And under the legislation New York passed, it was like, we'll give you the permit now, but good luck using it, because we're going to say, you can't use it here, there, and this other place. And it was such a long list of places that it made it highly impractical to actually go about your day armed. You would have to leave it behind, in your car in a locked box so much that it would just make it impractical.
Well, and I want to make a point about this, because I saw a commentary piece from somebody, and I don't remember who it was. It was shortly after New York came out with their response to Bruen, where they did this whole patchwork of different areas. And the guy literally, he lined it out. He said, if I can carry here where I want to go at my place of business, and I can carry at my house. And he said, but here's how many times I would have to disarm myself between there and here. It was like something like 14 times he'd have to put it in it became untenable. It was essentially a finger in the eye to anybody that believed in the court's decision on Bruen.
Right. So this is basically an attempted end run around Bruen, saying, all right, you're making us issue these permits now, but we're going to make it so hard to use them that people will either just not bother applying, or they won't actually try to carry guns. So Sotheby said a bunch of those restrictions were unconstitutional. For example, nobody in a bar or a restaurant can have a gun. There were, I believe, the zoos, theaters. There were a bunch of restrictions like that where he said this is not consistent with with the nation's tradition of firearm regulation. And really the most important one that he said was unconstitutional was the default rule for all private property, that you can't have guns on private property unless you get explicit permission. And in the case of businesses open to the public, the form that would most likely take is conspicuous signage. You have to put up a sign saying guns are welcome, or otherwise your customers with guns have to otherwise get explicit permission from you. So of course, this is designed, first of all, to create a default rule that guns are banned in a whole wide range of businesses that are open to the public. But secondly, you can say, oh, the owner, if it's okay with him, he can always put up a sign. The problem with that is that a lot of his customers might not like that. They might not like to have to patronize a business that has this big sign saying guns are welcome. And so he's got to decide, who do I want to antagonize? The people with carry permits who want to patronize my business, or the other people who might be offended by that. So that's by design, obviously. That was the idea, is that we're going to make a whole wide range, even the places that are not specifically named, that they might, it might still be banned there because it's private property, which is, it covers a lot of ground. Right. So Sotheby said that's obvious. He looked at the, historical examples that the state presented as analogs, and these were mostly anti-poaching laws that had to do with not bringing rifles into somebody's lands, because do unauthorized hunting there. Those were the main examples. And Sotheby says that that's not close enough, right? That's not similar, not relevantly similar. And on that, the Second Circuit actually agreed with Sotheby, said we don't find these anti-poaching laws to be, compelling historical analogs, but for a bunch of other categories of specific locations where guns are not allowed, they said that was okay.
Yeah, like theaters and things like
theaters, bars and restaurants, zoos, things like that. And it's interesting to compare the Second Circuit's reasoning to Sotheby's, because he was very particular, going through all of the different historical precedents and saying, well, who had these laws? When were they adopted? Was it around the time the 14th Amendment was ratified? Around the time the Second Amendment was ratified? Was it really representative of gun laws at the time? He even looked at, what percentage of the population was subject to the laws. So he was very particular in terms of the precedents. Not that it had to be exactly the same, but he was pretty rigorous. Whereas the Second Circuit applied the Bruen test at a sort of a higher level of generality. So, for example, for those locations I mentioned, they said, well, there's this tradition of prohibiting guns in places that might be crowded. And I was thinking, well, because there's there was a law, no guns at the fair.
Right.
There were a few states in the 19th century that said no guns in places of education or entertainment or cultural exploration or things like that. And so they inferred from several laws like that this principle that in locations that might be crowded, so that's theaters, that's zoos, that's
it's New York City.
It's all of New York City. That's the problem, is that they also at the same time are saying it's not okay to say guns are presumptively banned in every business open to the public. That's not okay.
Right.
But then they also are saying, but if it might be crowded, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of these businesses, like stores, might be crowded.
Right.
A store might be crowded. It depends how many people are in there, how big the store is. Right. So I find that somewhat inconsistent. They clearly did not want to say it's okay to just presumptively ban guns everywhere, because that would make it a farce.
So we get this halfway. So we kind of get this halfway decision out of the Second Circuit, which is going to be interesting. But we got to hold pause real quick here, Jacob. Jacob Sullum, senior editor at Reason Magazine, is our guest. It's Firearms Friday. We're going to be back with more here in just a second. Don't go anywhere. We'll return right after this.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
Oh, it's a magical Christmas time again. Your kids are counting on you.
Yeah, Dad.
Now, if only someone would do something for you.
Honey,
Headache.
Oh.
Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're on here in the commercial break now. Jacob Sullum, our guest. We'll change gears just a little bit. We're hoping, Jacob, that you might take a minute out of your day today. I know you're busy, but we got that holiday recipe contest, and JD Tuchili put up his chestnut sausage and apple stuffing recipe up there. We'd love for you to. Do you have a special meal that you eat for the holidays? Is there something like you wait around a year?
I could give you a latke recipe.
Latke?
Yeah,
man.
I have Southwestern latke recipe, which is Texas appropriate.
I like that.
For Alaska, I'm not sure.
Well, I question whether or not when JD told us about his, I was like, chestnuts. I don't know if I've ever seen chestnuts in the store. And then somebody in the chat room told me, oh no, you can get them over at Safeway or Cars or whatever. So
it's better to buy them pre-cooked and peeled and everything, because roasting them and peeling them is a big pain.
It is a big pain. But what is latke? I don't even know what that is. Can you?
Oh, yeah, it's a potato pancake for Hanukkah.
Oh, okay, for Hanukkah. Okay.
So today's the last day of Hanukkah.
Yep.
And this is one of the traditional foods for Hanukkah because it is fried. Why is that a traditional food? Because the central miracle of Hanukkah is that they went into the temple, which had been trashed, and they found one remaining container of oil, and they lit the menorah, and it miraculously burned for 8 days instead of just 1 day. So things made in oil are traditional. So that's one, and the other donuts is the other thing.
Right.
Fried donuts, fried potato pancakes.
Oh man! And so the Southwest latke has got to be. Do you got a little bit of little spice on it?
Yeah. It's basically kind of chili spices.
Hey, I like it. I love that.
Some cilantro.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. We'd love to see it. That would be fun stuff. We were, I just love to share that holiday tradition. This is like the last political show for the year, right? Today, I've been avoiding politics most of the week. We've been talking about just kind of fun stuff, but I definitely wanted to get a last Firearms Friday in. But I'm reached that time of year, and I'm sure you get to that at some point during the year too, where you're just like up to here with, I can't talk about that anymore. Let's talk about fun stuff. And of course, food and the holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas. I mean, the whole thing, that's all, I mean, that's where my heart lives for the rest of the year. I just want to get that recharge so that I can face January with a clean heart and a recharged spirit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's definitely a thing. Well, good. Well, maybe if you get a chance, throw that up there. If you do, that would be a fun thing. I'd try that. I'd try it just to see it. One of my girls she's doing like around the world on pancakes. She had like Japanese, Dutch pancakes, these little puffy things that she did. She makes the Japanese egg pancakes. She loves pancakes. So we'll get her to try that and make it up for us, and we'll test it out around here. All right. Let me see if there's any questions for Jacob here. I want to finish up with the New York story, and then I do want to touch on this Hunter Biden thing because, I mean, come on, Jacob, if you'd told me last year that Hunter Biden was going to be the poster child for Second Amendment rights in 2023, I'd have laughed you out of the room. But this seems to be the direction that they're going right here. With this, I mean, they're going full speed ahead, full bore, unconstitutional. They're pitting Hunter against his dad, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that was already happening. So because this is the policy that the president enthusiastically supports, and it also is apt to send his son to prison for doing something that was illegal, no question, but didn't violate anybody's rights. He didn't threaten anybody or injure anybody. And yet he could, theoretically, under these three charges they brought based on this single transaction, he theoretically go to prison for 25 years.
Yeah.
Unlikely he'll get that long, but he could still get a prison sentence just for that one gun purchase.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. So I'm looking forward to talking about that as well. Are you working on anything else? Are you off for the rest of the holidays, or what's?
I'm working on a book about parallels between gun control and drug control.
Oh, well, I look forward to that. We'll have to have you back on when you get that out there and published. I'd love to talk about that and discuss that. I know you've alluded to that several times in some of your writings about how there are definitely parallels to that, the war on drugs and the war on guns. I think that would be so. You're welcome on the program when you get ready to produce it and pitch it out. You're always welcome. I don't know why I said that, because you're always welcome on the program. All right, we are about 30 seconds out from rejoining the radio. We'll finish up with a New York story, and then we'll move on to the Hunter Biden story, and then we'll let Jacob get back to his holiday season here, and we'll continue. Folks, please like and share, follow, ring the bell, do all the stuff on Facebook and YouTube and everything else, and then don't forget, if you haven't put up your recipe on the recipe page, just go to my Facebook page, click on the picture, and post it. You get a chance to win. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. All right, we're back. Firearms Friday here. Jacob Sullum, senior editor for Reason Magazine, joins us. We're talking about his latest story on the Second Circuit of New York and how they have rejected many of New York's new rules against guns, but not all. There's still some problems in there. We were just talking about that before we went to break, how they are now allowing them in private businesses, but there's still theaters, zoos, other public places. The justification seems a little bit weak, Jacob, when it's all said and done, and still creates so much discretionary decision-making by bureaucrats that I have a feeling that this might go back to the courts. What say you on this? What's the final outcome of this Second Circuit decision?
Well, the plaintiffs, these are actually 4 different lawsuits. Oh, I didn't mention there was also a challenge to the ban on guns in churches, and that was part of the injunction that the
Right.
Second Circuit issued. Was that there was a particular congregation where the pastor said, "We take it to be a religious duty to be prepared to defend, the congregation."
Right.
And so this is a First Amendment issue as well as a Second Amendment issue. And they actually got an injunction specific to them saying you can't enforce this rule against this church. It's, its pastor, its congregants. And so that's interesting. Because there's a religious freedom spin on that, and especially to the extent that the law is discriminating against religious institutions where there are other secular institutions that don't have the same rule applied to them. It's sort of like what happened during COVID, where you had, if you have a rule that applies, based on neutral criteria, that's usually okay. But if you're discriminating against religious institutions in some way, then that's suspect.
Right.
And yeah, so the plaintiffs, you have 4 different cases here that were consolidated, and they can ask for for a rehearing before the Second Circuit. That might be the next step. I don't know what their plans are, but I think that the bars and restaurants thing, that's a pretty big deal, and the reasoning was thin. It might be crowded, which, as I mentioned, can apply to
Right.
lots of places, including the ones where they said you couldn't ban guns. But also they invoked these old laws that said you can't carry or sometimes fire a gun in public when you're drunk. And so they was like, well, combine these 2 things because it's focused on businesses that serve alcohol. And the point that the people who challenged this provision made was that it applies whether you're drunk or not. So if you go out to a restaurant and they happen to have a liquor license, that's not your fault, and you're not drinking at all. Why is it that if it's okay with the owner, you're not allowed to have a gun? Doesn't really make much sense. So that's a pretty big deal. You have to think about as you mentioned, the practical consequences. Map it out, and it depends on where you live. How many prohibited locations, how many gun-free zones are there between you and where you're going? And it's going to vary depending upon what part of the state you live in.
Right. No, the whole thing's frustrating. So quickly, where does it go from here? Is it because this is an en banc panel, right? It was the first Sotheby judged it. Then the panel came back.
This was a three judge panel.
Yep.
And so they could ask for an en banc rehearing, and maybe the Second Circuit will do that. Wouldn't be super optimistic that they would come out very differently. And then so ultimately could go to the Supreme Court. This kind of law has been enacted by a bunch of states, not just New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Hawaii, California has one that's going takes effect at the beginning of the year of next year. And they all take essentially the same approach. Here's a long list of places that we're calling sensitive, and then also just in general, any business open to the public, unless they put up these signs, guns are not allowed. And that particular requirement, a bunch of judges have, in addition to the Second Circuit, you have these federal judges in New York, but also in New Jersey and in Maryland, who said that requirement is unconstitutional, which is interesting. Right. Because that's the most sweeping one, where it's just the default rule for all private businesses. So yeah, I think ultimately this has come up in so many jurisdictions. It's going to have to go to the Supreme Court to be resolved, and so I think that will happen eventually.
We'll see what that comes from that. We got about 4 minutes here. I wanted to touch briefly on Hunter Biden's legal case. I said to you earlier during the break that if you told me last year that Hunter Biden would be the new poster child for gun rights, I would be surprised. But that's the direction his legal team is going. They're saying that the 4473 question on whether or not you're a drug user or anything else is an unconstitutional question. That's what they're trying to get him on, and now they've stacked up some charges on him here. Give us a quick rundown here.
Yeah, so this is one transaction. He bought a revolver back in 2018. At that time, he was, by his own admission, a crack user, so that was illegal to buy that gun as an illegal drug user. Also, when he filled out the form, he denied illegal drug use, so that's another felony. And that felony, that act of checking the wrong box on the form, is also a third felony, which is essentially the same. They're phrased somewhat differently, but they have to do with making false representations to a firearms dealer. So the two related to that, plus this other one, and altogether the maximum penalty would be 25 years in prison. And so he's filed a motion to get the charges dismissed this week, and it's not. The main argument is not Second Amendment. The main argument at this stage is this is a vindictive and selective prosecution, and the U.S. Attorney David Weiss, that he would not, who is now special counsel handling the Biden investigation, he would not have brought these charges but for all this pressure from Republicans in Congress, and this is improper, and this is a separation of powers issue. That's the main argument of in this brief. But in order to make this case, he notes that, first of all, this law is flouted by millions of Americans every year. Like, look how many drug users there are. If a third of them own guns, you're talking about something like 20 million people.
Right. Yeah.
Who are committing the same felonies that he's charged with, and they almost never are prosecuted. It's like 120 prosecutions a year under this provision. So he makes that point. He actually cites one of my articles, or his lawyers cite one of my articles on a footnote, going to the question of how it's really enforced rarely and haphazardly. And then he also notes that this provision, the ban on gun possession by illegal drug users, was deemed unconstitutional by the Fifth Circuit. Notes that once, and then also notes it again in passing, saying it's unconstitutional. So it being unconstitutional clearly has to do with the Second Amendment, even though they don't say they don't use that phrase. And so down the road, I think that I doubt that the argument about vindictive prosecution will prevail, but the Second Amendment argument is very clearly viable, given what the Fifth Circuit said, given what other federal judges have said, that this is just doesn't meet the Bruen test, because the fact that you are, say, a marijuana consumer does not mean you're dangerous, right? It doesn't fit into that the tradition of preventing dangerous people from having guns. It doesn't really fit that tradition. And Biden administration is arguing that it does fit that tradition, that you are ipso facto dangerous and unvirtuous and just not the sort of person that should have a gun if you, for example, use marijuana occasionally.
Well, I wouldn't want to be at their Christmas dinner table for that'll be an interesting take. Jacob Sullum, Reason Magazine, my friend, thank you very much. Happy holidays to you. Appreciate you coming on board. Hold the line for just a second. Folks, we got more coming up. Hour 2, dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Jacob, I really appreciate. I mean, we could go on for another half hour on all this stuff, because you've been writing a lot about the Second Amendment and this. You had the other case that the California case, where you're talking about this was from earlier in the month. Again, back to this whole sensitive spaces thing. As you said, Maryland, Hawaii, California. This is their end run around that whole thing, is to try and create this patchwork of all these sensitive places where you are it basically effectively disarms you as you travel across the city. There's pockets of places where you can carry, and it's on you to get. It's so infuriating, because I saw one comment from somebody that said, well, this is our job, and if you feel like it's wrong, then you need to take it to court and have the courts prove it, kind of thing, where they're putting the burden back on the private citizen, making something that they know is blatantly wrong and unconstitutional, but doing it because it's basically giving all the gun owners the finger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was very clear when they enacted the California law that they didn't agree with Bruen. They thought it was they said it in so many words. This is a terrible decision. It will have terrible consequences. How can we prevent it from having those consequences? We're going to basically make it highly impractical to exercise the right and Newsom put scare quotes around rights when the right to bear arms.
Yeah, right. I know.
Because he doesn't really believe in that. And so we're going to make that right very hard to exercise. They're quite explicit about it. So it's not even like you have to surmise that this is their motive. They hated this decision. They really don't want to have to obey it.
Do you think the Supremes are going to? I mean, Bruen is so brand new. I mean, really, it's but there's already been so much of this kind of wiggle stuff, trying to backdoor it and everything else. Do you think that they will? And you've been watching the courts for years. Do you think that they will take this up for clarification in the future, near or far future? What are your thoughts on that?
The Supreme Court?
Yeah,
I think they're going to have to address this issue of geographic restrictions, right? Because obviously, if it makes it impossible in practice to exercise this right, that can't be constitutional. That is completely contradicts what they said in Bruen. So they're going to have to come up with some kind of test, right? For to what extent can you decree that you can have the permit, but you can't use it. I mean, that's it's obviously is going to need to be addressed, because otherwise, Bruen will be completely ineffective in precisely the states where it was supposed to have an impact, which were the ones that had these special, where you had to have a special justification to get a carry permit. Those are the states that have adopted these laws now. So I can't imagine they're going to let them get away with thumbing their nose at the Supreme Court and saying, we know what you decided, we didn't like it, so we're not going to follow it.
Right. I think the FPC and somebody else has already got some of these cases that are already headed up to the Supreme to deal with these sensitive spaces issues to begin with. So who knows? Maybe it would be great if they could take it up sometime next year and bring it out and clarify that. Because like I said, I think Bruen is going to fundamentally transform the space as far as gun rights and everything else. It's gone a long way already, and they're going to try and weasel through it as much as they can. But if they could take out some of these big major roadblocks, I think that would be I think in 5 years, we may see a totally different landscape.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense for them to start with the things that are directly relevant to this specific right they upheld in Bruen, because you want to make sure that the decision actually has consequences in the real world.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Well, Jacob, I wish you and your family a very happy holidays and happy Hanukkah. And I appreciate you guys coming on board and taking the time out. And I'm excited for your book. I didn't know you were writing a book, so now I'm excited to read that as well. And just keep up the good work, my friend. I was talking with a friend yesterday, and he was talking about mainstream news outlets and everything else, and clickbait and doing it for the money and all this kind of stuff. And I just told him, I said, I just read Reason these days. I mean, I may read an article from somewhere else every now and then, but for the most part, if I'm looking for something that's just kind of straight dope on one, with laying everything out, you guys do a fantastic job at Reason, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, sir. Well, Latka. I'm looking for the Southwest Latka. Now I'm going to go. I'm looking forward to trying it. So thank you.
Right.
Thanks for coming on board. We'll talk to you again in the new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Jacob Sullum, Reason Magazine, our guest here on the program today. I'd heard of Latka, but I didn't know what it actually was. That's why I asked. But now it sounds delicious. A fried in oil potato pancake with chili peppers and spices? Yeah, why not? That's it. And I could have a religious experience while I'm at it, remembering that. So, is Hunter only using malicious prosecution so his case can avoid facing against the Biden administration's policy? Probably, but I don't think that that's going to go anywhere. I think that that's I don't think that that's really going to be, just because everybody else does it is not the argument. Now, it's interesting that they make it so blatant and public that this is what's going on, and the fact that nobody's enforcing the law that's already on the books kind of undercuts their whole thing about how, well, if we just had one more law, it would fix it. Because obviously, that's not the case. That's obviously not the case when it comes down to that. Okay. Phones are open. Not just oil. Schultz. Seasoned chicken fat, says Jeannie. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna figure it out. We'll get it on. I'll make sure that it's authentic. when it's all said and done. How about that? Okay, hour 2, dead ahead. Phone lines are open. We're ready to go. Are you going to call in and talk to me today? I hope so. I hope that's what you're going to do. Let's get into this and get things going. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Yeah, buddy.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
That's right. Firearms Friday, or what we like to call Fireday. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I was typing earlier and I was like, Fireday. Well, it's not Friday. It's not. It's Fireday. It works. It that works for me. And maybe it beats the algorithm, on Facebook or YouTube or whoever, because gosh, they hate us. They hate the people that really like to keep and bear arms. It's just we're not their friends. They're not fans. Let's put it that way. Maybe hate is too strong a words, but they're definitely not fans of what we're doing here. Friday is the day that we focus on the Second Amendment and 2A rights and everything else. We talk about stories. We just finished up with our most recent guest, Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine, who came on board to talk with us about the Second Circuit decision in New York and also Hunter Biden's case. Again, if you had told me last year that Hunter Biden would be the new poster boy for gun rights, I would have laughed you right out of the room. But here he is with his lawyers saying that the gun ban is unconstitutional and that this the whole I mean, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. But this is the world we live in right now, so it's interesting stuff. Special thanks to Jacob for coming on board today during the beginning of the holiday season. We are officially 9 sleeps away from Christmas. And a quick reminder that as of next, Wednesday will be my last day of broadcast for the year. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And next week, it's going to be nothing but Christmassy stuff. It's going to be holiday, Christmas. We're going to talk with Brad Keithley and Chris Story on Tuesday. Brad's bringing in the Christmas top 3 instead of the weekly top 3 for state business. And then Chris is going to kind of do the same with an uplift and just kind of holiday memories. On Wednesday, Mike Shower will be joining us for the final show of the year. And we'll be sharing Christmas memories and holiday stuff and favorite things. And that'll be fun. On Monday, we'll have just some open line. I don't have any guests lined up, but we'll hang out and I'll talk about some of my favorite Christmas memories. And I'm trying to put you in the mood. For the Christmas and the holiday season. And then after Wednesday, we will be on vacation. You'll have alternate programming wherever you're listening, whatever part of the state you're listening. You'll have alternate programming all the way up until January 2, which will be a Tuesday, January the 2nd, and that will be our first crack at the governor's budget, which I will say came out last night. This is all I'll say on it. $13.9 billion budget. Was that right? Or 13.6? It was a $13 billion plus budget. $3,400 dividend. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. but with a $1 billion deficit baked in. And his suggestion is just take it out of savings. No attempts to cut, no attempts to trim down, no attempts to do anything else. He didn't raise a bunch of stuff, but just think about that. A state with 700,000 people in it with a almost $14 billion budget. I mean, okay. 980 something million dollar deficit, almost $1 billion deficit. That's sustainable. I mean, I'm just going to say that, well, that's super sustainable. I think we should just keep doing that. Don't you? Don't you think that that's what we should keep doing? I mean, I'm so glad we're not going to talk about this till the next year, because my head, when I read it, my head almost exploded. Although there was a super interesting infographic that the governor has. He's got an interactive infographic which shows you where all the money goes in state government. And it's interesting to look at. You should go check it out. It's $13.9 billion budget. Almost $14 billion for 700,000 people. Don't worry about it. It'll all work out. Don't worry about it. Totally sustainable. Totally sustainable. All right. Sorry. I broke my own rule. Let's get back to firearm stuff, shall we? Let's do that. What else was I talking about here? My friend David Codrea from the War on Guns. We haven't had David on in quite a while. We should, in the new year, we should jump in and talk with David Codrea, who used to write for Oath Keepers and Guns Magazine, and he's written for a bunch of different outlets. Now he's writing for the Firearms News, and he's got his latest piece up talking about the UNLV shooting, which the University of Las Vegas shooting. And it's going to be, it was always going to be part of the gun debate. From the moment the news broke, we all knew it was going to be trying used to push gun control. 3 faculty members were killed. 1 was wounded. 2 police officers were injured in the confrontation with the gunman. There was never any doubt that this was going to be leveraged for this. But David Codrea has got a real, I think, an interesting thought and some interesting takes on this. And I'm going to get into that here in a minute, but phone lines are open. I forgot to tell you that phone lines are open for this next couple segments. We're just going to chat with you about whatever you want to talk about, firearms related or whatever. And since the phone lines are up and running and I've got a phone call on hold, let's just go over there and get things started, shall we? See what's going on. We'll start off right here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is this Larry?
Oh, okay. Well, something's cutting out. But anyway, this is Larry, North Pole, Fairbanks area, and I had 36 below at my place out there, but North Pole this morning. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that we got that gun show coming up tomorrow and Sunday. It's put on by the Alaska Gun Collectors, and general public can come in at 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Saturday, and 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay.
And y'all come out.
All right.
It's, just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas. This is at the Lamont building, right? The Shoppers Forum there on Airport. So 10 to 6 on Saturday and 11 to 5 on Sunday. Yeah. All right.
You're breaking up again, Mike.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in again tomorrow. 10 to 6 and 11 to 5 on Sunday. If you want to go out to the big gun show up in Fairbanks at the old Gottschalk's building, that's the place to go. All right, let me. I'm going to restart the phones just in case that's a problem on my end instead of Larry's end. I mean, who knows at this point? It's Friday. It is what it is. So let me relaunch the phones here, and we'll see if we can get a better connection and get things started. So if you want to call off by sound off or call in, by the way, it's 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. And feel free to come on board and join us there and enjoy yourselves, and we'll get it all squared away. All right, let me go back to the story about UNLV and David Codrea. So Codrea points out that let me just read what he says here. This is from his article at firearmsnews.com. We need Congress to step up after UNLV shooting, the News Nation reported, citing Joe Biden's official statement crafted by White House wordsmiths to exploit the murders to full advantage. He urged lawmakers to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. He also urged lawmakers to implement fast national red flag laws, require safe gun storage, and enact universal background checks. The problem with all these solutions are that the killer bought his legally, meaning he'd undergone a background check, and used a 9mm handgun. Clark County Sheriff added that the shooter brought 11 magazines with him to the campus, and police found 9 of them on the shooter after he was killed. So there goes the objections that magazine bans are justified because having to swap them out gives them time to tackle their assailant. Instead, terrified students and professors cowered in classrooms and offices as the gunman roamed the top 3 floors of the UNLV's Lee Business School. Why are supposedly free Americans in then the land of the Second Amendment reduced to that most pathetic state of affairs? They certainly outnumber the lone wolf attackers who carry out most school shootings. So how can one delusional nut job completely dominate and cow a campus full of predominantly young adults? In this case, it's thanks to those citizen disarmament edicts that the president, the Democrats, and the media are saying we need more of. And the Nevada law and university policy agrees. Nevada prohibits any person from carrying or possessing a firearm on the property of the Nevada system of higher education. The Giffords Law Center notes on its state gun laws page. This prohibition does not restrict the possession of a firearm on the property of a private school or child care facility by a peace officer, a school security guard, or a person having written permission from the president of a branch or facility of the system. So you can get a lot. I mean, but he's laying it right out there. I mean, this is what they want. He wants a ban. He wants high-capacity magazines banned. He wants assault weapons banned. He wants background checks. He wants all these things. And yet none of those things would have affected this shooting. This is a common this goes on all the time. We see the shooting, and before the smoke is even cleared and the police have even, finished putting up the yellow tape around the incident, they're already calling for new gun laws and new things that would have had no effect on what's going on in the system. I mean, he used a pistol. He had multiple magazines. So it didn't matter if they were 10 or 15 round magazines. He had multiple magazines. He didn't use an assault weapon. He went through a background check. This is the same thing we saw at the Virginia Tech shooter where he used 2 pistols. I mean, it's always about never letting a crisis go to waste. All those things that the president's calling for, none of those things had anything to do with this particular incident, but they will use it and leverage it as a way to create this. And of course, the biggest culprit here is the fact that it's a gun-free zone. Fish in a barrel. That's what it comes down to. And obviously, the gun-free law didn't stop this guy from going and shooting up a campus. That's what blows my mind. Oh, we're trying to avoid the violence. So if we put this sign up that says no guns allowed, then surely bad people with bad intentions will pay attention to that and not ignore it. Yet time and time again, and as we've talked about with Dr. Lott, this is what happens. In fact, many shooters specifically talk about in their notes and their memoirs that is where they're going, because that is a place where they will meet little to no resistance, is in gun-free zones. I mean, the Greenville Mall shooting came as such a shock because that guy just popped up out of nowhere and shot the shooter, shot the bad guy, because he wasn't the good guy wasn't supposed to be armed, but he just ignored the law. Was he prosecuted for it? No. In fact, the mall, which had the policy, praised him in that regard, which again, just, people should just feel confident that anytime they're around you, they know that they're not in a gun-free zone, right? That's kind of my goal here in this whole thing is to be in that regard right there. All right. We got one phone call on hold. We're going to get to them here on the other side. And then we're going to continue on. We got Willie Waffle coming up at the end of the show. Happy Friday. Happy Firearms Friday. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
It's the Michael Dukes Show.
Oh, yeah. Feeling this holiday thing. Give me some nog.
You can fake your holiday spirit, or you can just try to find it for real. Happy holidays. Good luck with that. Streaming live every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on Facebook Live and michaeldukesshow.com.
Okay. We are in the break here this morning. Let me see. Jacob is asking where he puts the recipe. Hold on. Click on the picture of the holiday feast. Okay. Let me go over to the phones. Oops, they hung up while I was in the break. I was just trying to fix it, man. Hate that. Okay, let me go back over here. Washington budget is $36 billion for 8 million people. There are going to be some smoking deals on AR platforms there, by the way. When you say there, what are you talking about? That's what Brian says he's heard. I want to know. What do we got going on? Good morning. I see Tuckerman Babcock's in the show. Good morning, Tuckerman. Kelly. This is Brian. Brian, we should start our own church. We should do that. The Church of the Divine Smoke Wagon. I think that would be amazing. That would be amazing to do that. Now we have to think of the titles of the various levels of the priesthood. That's a Church of the Divine Smoke Wagon. His High Holiness, the gunslinger extraordinaire, the Hog Father. The Hog. That has so many different connotations in this exact moment. Brian said he heard there was going to be some smoking deals on ARs at the Fairbanks Gun Show. Okay, thank you, Brian. I'm still trying to get over the Church of the Divine Smoke Wagon. That deserves its own T-shirt at this point. I'm just saying that deserves its own. The Hog Leg Father. Let's go. Let me go over to the. It's just getting silly in here now. Just getting silly. Let me go over to the phones, and we'll see if the phones got any better, and we'll check in with this caller to see what's going on. Good morning, caller. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Mike. This is James from Fairbanks.
Hey, James, how you doing? I'm sorry. I don't know why it's choppy and breaking up, but I can hear you. Go ahead.
You mentioned the governor's budget. I'll take my 1.8 million and do better for my community than his whole budget will.
Yeah, and I don't know, my
Did
phone.
the math and people. You take that 13 billion, you get 1.8 million per person.
Is that what you say? 1.8 million per person?
Yeah, 1.8 for the state out of that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I could do a lot more for my family with $1.8 billion than they could do. I mean, I think we could. Why don't they just pass it out and then charge us for everything that the state needs to do, and then we'll decide whether or not we want to pay for whatever we want to pay for. That seems to be a better idea in the long run, for sure. I agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the firearms note, I would like another with the Mauser action.
And I'm sorry, James. I'm sorry, James. I apologize, but the phones are just acting up this morning. So apparently, we're not going to take any more phone calls this morning because it's busted. I don't know. You know what? It is what it is. I'm ambivalent to it at this point. We got one final segment. We're not going to hear from Fred. Oh, that's sad. I wanted to hear from Fred here before the end of the year, but that's okay. I'm just closing it all down. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it right now.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right. Assault radio. I've been called worse by better. Just saying. I've been called worse things by better people than you. All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us here on this beautiful Firearms Friday. Unfortunately, we were messing with the phones during the commercial break, and I don't know. I don't have time to deal with it today. It's something's just, I don't know if it's my internet or what, but everything's not working right, and it's bothering me. So I just turned the phones off. So unfortunately, no more phone calls for you guys this year, which was unfortunate because I was hoping to hear from Fred in Rhode Island because he always is fun and has something good to say. And unfortunately, that won't happen today. So if Fred's listening out in Rhode Island, Merry Christmas, my friend. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. All the happies. Thank you for being a listener out there. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing from you again in the new year, 2024. All right. So what have we said today? We've said that actions have consequences. We should, we talked about the story of never letting a crisis go to waste, and now we've got this next story, which is just another that shows how low people will go. How low people will go. And Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms writes about this, talking about Sandy Hook. We're coming up on the anniversary, right? The Sandy Hook, 11 years is come and gone now since the Sandy Hook shooting, which was a tragedy. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. It was an absolute unmitigated tragedy. But there's still people out there who are trying to profit off of it, or, again, it kind of goes back to the never let the crisis go to waste. It was just one of those, anyway, it was crazy. Here they were, it's 11 years since that morning passed, and people are still trying to use Sandy Hook as a push for gun control. There's a UPI story talking about it. 11 years after the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, Democratic leaders Thursday called on Congress to expand gun legislation. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat from New York, spoke outside the Capitol, recalling how the massacre of 21st graders and 6 educators in Newtown shocked the conscience of our nation. Yet the violence continues, Jeffries said. There have been 635 mass shootings and more than 40,000 gun deaths this year, calling it unacceptable and unconscionable and un-American. He thanked members of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force for their work over the years and condemned the do-nothing Republican Congress for not addressing the gun violence. And that's the problem. The problem is that there's only one thing that he can think of to address the gun violence, and that's by taking away everybody's right to keep and bear arms. Literally not any other solution to any of these problems that we know of. The president also pushed the same narrative. You could see that it was almost exactly the same talking points. But the problem is that the numbers are not right. They use all this voodoo, statistical stuff to try and make it happen. There haven't been 635 mass shootings. There have been a couple dozen, which again, each and every one is a tragedy. But there's also been of those, what they call mass shootings, also include gang shootouts, drug deals, drug deal hits, violent crime across the nation, and all this other stuff, which a lot of that stems from the revolving door of the justice system, basically saying that no incarceration time for people who are doing bad things to good people. They also involved illegally obtained firearms, meaning that gun control isn't just going to come to a screeching halt, and they're not going to be able to do anything to stop those particular shootings because a lot of them were already previously criminals, known felons. They had illegal guns to begin with. I mean, it just goes through the points of proving over and over and over again that what we're trying to do here is not working quite as intended, right? But that's the only thing that they can think of is more laws. Like somehow that's good. And then they use the number of 40,000 deaths, more than 40,000 deaths. Unfortunately, 70% of those are suicides. But they don't ever talk about that. They always conflate the numbers for the shock value. Shock value. I mean, even if you had it at 40,000, let's just say hypothetically that it was no suicides. It was literally 40,000 gun deaths. In a country of 325 million people, that's still pretty tiny. I'm assuming that's still on the right-hand side of the decimal place at this point. But it's not. Of course, I said 67% of those are suicides. So now you're talking about 12,000 deaths in a country of 300. Now, each and every one of them is a tragedy. I don't want to I'm not trying to mitigate the just how horrific it is. But from a pure, raw, numerical, statistical viewpoint, 13,000 deaths, 14,000 deaths in a country of 325 million citizens. Now you've got at least two places to the right of the decimal as to how much that's actually affecting. It is just this whole oversized thing. Stop using the gun violence archive to make your problem sound worse. 635 shootings. And then go back to, again, remember all the things that they wanted to do for the UNLV shooting, the assault weapons, the safe storage, and everything else. Well, let's go back to the particulars of Sandy Hook for just a second. This was a kid. He couldn't buy his own guns. His mother had guns locked up in the safe. He was able to finagle the combination out, got the gun, murdered his own mother so he could take her lawfully owned rifle. Then he took the rifle to a gun-free school zone, right? And proceeded to enact his barbarism there. What exactly would have... the assault weapons ban. Well, I mean, in that one case, if he had done, the Virginia Tech shooter did almost as well with a pistol. I mean, when I say I mean matching numbers. So is it really about that's the only thing that it was about? All these other things would have done nothing? An assault, maybe the ban would have made he wouldn't have an AR-15, but again, Virginia Tech, handguns. And that's a best case scenario. He might have shifted to a different weapon. But again, he's already committed to doing these heinous, violent. If you think that one more law is going to stop these people, we need to start to address some of the deeper foundational issues here. Mental health is a huge one. Mental health is absolutely huge. And if you want to keep your schools safe, I suggest you harden the schools, because up until then, they are soft, appetizing targets for these kind of madmen. Well, we don't want our kids to go to school in prison. Your schools are already prisons, okay? In many ways, prisons of the mind, if nothing else. But if you really want to protect the children, and the children are your future, maybe you should harden the schools a little bit before you jump in beyond that. I'm just saying, maybe you want to do that right there. That might be a better idea. All right. We're coming up on it. We got the break ahead, and then Willie Waffle will be joining us. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Oof. I'm ready. I'm ready for some entertainment and holiday cheer. Shall we get into it? Do something good? I think so. Let's make it happen. Back with more right after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. All right. Fine. What do we got here? Old Ironside. Yeah, that's what you get. The Old Ironside. Hoppy scented sage to purge the evil spirits. I'm liking this a lot more. I'm helping this a lot more. The governor's, this is Donna trying to raise my blood pressure. The governor's first budget was $9.1 billion. This proposed budget is $14.1 billion, a 55% increase over 6 years. That's $19,000 per Alaskan. Oh man, it's just man. Jeannie says, talking about the Pushwa, there's no resource for him to quote 40,000 gun deaths. Well, I mean, if you include suicides, sure. But no mention, she says, no mention of the 365 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests, or the car crashes, or the medical malpractice, the 800,000 incidents a year of medical malpractice, or the 105,000 deaths due to alcohol, or it's all BS. It's all politics. It's all about one thing: power. They don't like that we have the ability to push back. They don't like that we have the ability to protect ourselves from their betterment, right? Because they know better than we if we'd only get out of the way and let them do their job and take over our lives, things would be a lot simpler. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Are we being served? That's a good question, isn't it? That's a good question. Okay. Oh man, I don't even want to talk about it right now. Just don't even want to discuss it at this point. I'm ready for vacation. I saw this budget this morning and my brain just went ding. Just thinking, you produce a budget. He's trying, and here's the thing, God love him, but he's trying to have he's trying to be all things to all people, right? He's still including the $3,400 dividend, but with no way to pay for it, which immediately means that it's just going to be subsumed. There's a $980 something million deficit in it. And where are they going to find it? Well, they just take it out of the PFD. It's a no-brainer for these guys. They don't care. They don't care about the private sector. They don't care about the public. They don't care about the PFD. They publicly stated that they want the PFD to go away. They think that money should be in their hands. So he's doing their job for them in some ways. I mean, if he wanted to be, if he really wanted to make the legislature work for it, he would have a budget that included some significant cuts. Maybe not back to his 2019 plan, but some significant cuts. But this is just kind of a wink and a nod and a nudge. That's all this is. A 55% increase in budget over 6 years. That's, I mean, we're talking about the difference of $5 billion. Now, we know the government grows at $150 million a year anyway, automatically. But 5 years, 6 years, almost $1 billion a year in growth in state government. Just extrapolate that out in another 5 or 10 years. I just, okay, I'm going to stop talking about it. Sorry, I'm getting worked up. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. Jacob sent me an email. Let me see if Jacob actually posted. He was looking for the page. He was putting his recipe up on the page. He said he couldn't find it. So where was it? He was going to go show me. I don't want most relevant. I want all comments. There we go. That's what I want. Got to make sure that you see all comments there. See if Jacob Sullum has got it up there as well. Oh man, we got a few extra ones. Well, he's putting it up, but I don't see it yet. But it's coming. It's going to be there in just a few minutes, and that'll be fun stuff. Make me some latke for the holiday season. All right. Oh baby, I am ready for Willie. Oh, I forgot to do the thing. Let me do this. Let me change this around real quick. We're 30 seconds out. The phone's about to ring a ding a ding. And here we go. Phone's buzzing. Let's get it done. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Make sure that you like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stuff and the YouTube-y things and add everything else. Whew. Let's get to it, shall we? Here we go. All right, we're ready. It's the final. Oh man, it's the season finale of Willie Waffle. That'd be a cool name for a series. I don't know what we would do for the series. I mean, maybe it's a story of a disgruntled breakfast cook who slings, I don't know, waffles on the side, and then, season finale. Willie Waffle, last show of the year. Hello, my friend.
I want it to be a Larry David-esque, Curb Your Enthusiasm-esque program where you all see what I go through on a daily basis.
Man, I
dealing with society.
Why would you wish that on people, man? Why would you? All right. Well, we got a couple movies, but we got a whole bunch of news stories. The one I just was cackling about it because, I mean, seriously, I've been saying this to you forever and you go, yeah, I know. And that is that the award shows are dead. The Golden Globes, Citizen's Choice, the Oscars, the Tonys. I mean, I don't mean to say who cares because this is the pinnacle of their business and I understand that, but it's just not a public spectacle anymore. Nobody cares. And now this story just proves it. You're telling me that no one wants to host the Golden Globes.
Nobody wants the job. And I think, yes, you're right. Award shows are dying. I think the fact that nobody wants to host the Golden Globes also comes along with the fact that the Golden Globes are the most scandal-ridden organization in the history of Hollywood, and it's just kind of run its course. I'm shocked, honestly shocked, that this program will even be on CBS on January 7th. because they've always had kind of this reputation that you could buy off the Golden Globes. You want to win an award, there's a way to pay for it. Not pay for it outright, but kind of treat their voters to some special
Right.
gifts and
Some favors,
some
right.
exciting contact in favor, exactly. And then they had the whole outrage a couple years ago. Then it turns out like they had no members who were not white. For an organization that's supposed to be around the globe with foreign press, foreign press from all countries around the globe, and surprise, surprise, not all countries are white. And so
Shocking.
that hurt them a great deal. And I think people are just trying to stay away from the stank. So the rumor is they've tried to get Chris Rock to do it, and he's like, "No way, man!" Ali Wong, who's a very funny comedian who was in the Netflix show Beef. They've approached Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman. I mean, they're going on down the list. Okay, it's only a matter of time before they call Mike and Willie, and we're going to be like, "No, thank you,
Like,
not interested."
No, I've got some Netflix to watch that night. Sorry, not interested. Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'll be interested. I mean, they had a version of the show of the awards. I want to say like 2 years ago, where they got some comedian from out of nowhere who like was never heard from before and has never been heard from again. They were basically a streaming. And I want to think, was it last year? They basically just did like a press conference and announced who won because they couldn't get the thing on TV or something. And now here we are. CBS, for whatever reason, is taking a chance. I mean, at this point, they're probably going to have to tap some CBS star whose contract is up, and they'll be like, "Oh, we'd really love to have you host the Golden Globes. Oh, you want us to re-up your show for 3 more years and pay you $1 million a year?" Okay.
Wow. Well, like I said, I mean, it just society has just changed, and we've tried to analyze exactly why that is. I mean, it used to be you didn't have daily tweets or Instagrams from your favorite actors or whatever. I mean, it was they'd get caught in the paper or something like that. That was about it. And so this was your exposure to them. But today, it's like overload, man. You could find out what Hillary Swank had for lunch today if you really wanted to go look at it and see.
Yeah.
So it's the shine is off the apple, so to speak. So,
well, and I'll even say, I think that over the past 20 years and the way the internet has grown, and I think society has grown, it's been very transformative in the sense that people don't want anybody to tell them what to think. Now on some levels they do, but I think in a lot of ways there are people who are like, I'm going to tell you what I think about this movie. I don't care what somebody else thinks about this movie. I don't care what some movie critic who I don't know thinks about it. I just want to have my own opinion. I know just as much as those people. And I think that's also contributed to the dwindling of the awards season because it's not like, oh, let me find out what's really cool and I should go watch.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. All right. Well, no Golden Globes, big snore. All right. Well, Netflix has got a new move now. Now Bridgerton, the season, I will say that the show Bridgerton has no socially redeeming values. Okay, it's kind of
you know why people watch it.
I know.
You know why they watch it.
It's like trashy TV, but I mean, people are talking. I hear people talk. I watched one episode. My wife wanted to watch it. I watched one episode and I went, "Oh, okay. I'm going to go upstairs and do something else." Because it was, and but now Netflix is debuting their new power move, which is they've already done this once with Lucifer, which was just so irritating, but now they're doing it again. Now they're going to start splitting the seasons up. So they're going to give you half a season and then you got to take a break and then they're going to come up back and give you the other half. Now, part of this is because, TV series these days on the streams, they're not like your normal run. I mean, I'm going back and I was watching, what was I watching? I can't remember. It was a series that I used to love. And man, there's like 20, 22 episodes a season. Now it's like 8 episodes a season, maybe 10 if it's going real deep, and so you don't get the same amount. And now they're going to split it on top of that. It's just, oh, come on, you're killing me.
Well, and they're also splitting it for a very how do I want to say, financial reason. They have found, I think Netflix is outright said this. They had found that, like when something like Stranger Things would premiere and they would drop all the episodes in one day, there would be people who would just get Netflix for 1 month and they would watch Stranger Things and they would unsubscribe and they would wait until Stranger Things came back. And so they're now trying to split that up. Well, if we split up the shows, we can make you get 2 months out of it because we'll give you half the season in 1 month and half the season in the other month. And that's what's going to happen with Bridgerton. So, season 3 is going to premiere their first 4 episodes on May 16th of next year. And then the last 4 episodes about a month later on June 13th. And like you said, they did this with Witcher. They did this with The Crown. I think, did they just do this with Stranger Things, the last episode or the last?
They may have, yeah.
I think they did, and I know for sure they're going to do it with the next one. So that's kind of the play here, and they need to have that subscribership, they need to have that viewership, because now Netflix is trying in many ways to move to an advertiser-based platform,
right,
where you will pay less, but you will see the commercials. And and if somebody's buying commercials, well, they got to know what they're buying, and that's why Netflix has been a little bit more open with data lately.
Right.
They're trying things like this. They're kind of becoming. Let's face it, streaming is now becoming what cable became, but
right,
cable ticked us off, and that's why we got streaming.
Right, exactly. Well, that takes us to our next story and final story, is that Netflix is coming clean about the numbers, right? I mean, they are being more transparent. All of a sudden, they decided, in our efforts to be transparent here, let us show you what's going on. And they did it from January to June. They just laid out 6 months worth of numbers, and the numbers are pretty staggering. I mean, hundreds and millions of hours being watched, and they tell you all about the stories.
Yeah, it's amazing. And again, I think a lot of this is because they're trying to sell ads. So, they're going to start doing this data dump every 6 months. And this one was January to June 2023. They had 18,214 titles that are on the network, on Netflix, that covered 99% of all viewing. Now, here's the funny thing. They also revealed that about 20% of the titles that they have in the library, almost nobody watches.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's like, so you see these numbers. I mean, the numbers, I agree with you, are really fascinating. What was the top program on Netflix in the first 6 months of 2023? The Night Agent, which was their really hot program. They had about 812 million hours of viewing. Number 2 was like the season 2 of the Ginny and Georgia program that came in second. It had like 665.1 million hours. Wednesday, the series, came in fourth, even though it came out around Thanksgiving last year. In 2023, it still had 507 million hours of viewing. And then they said, hey, here's another thing that's really kind of interesting. Of the viewership, Netflix said their original programming was about 55% of the viewing time. The licensed programs are about 45%. So there is some value to them continuing to develop their own programming,
right,
because it is getting viewership.
Right, and they don't have to pay the licensing fees, and they can continue to make money on it and everything else. Overall, there's something. Yeah. It was 6 billion hours watched, I think, is what the number was.
Yeah, total. I think that's what it was, like 6 billion hours watched. Yeah. Something amazing.
In 6 months. In 6 months, 6 billion hours. Oof, man. Yeah. Just think about that if you've gone out and worked a job for minimum wage. 6 billion hours. I mean, that was crazy stuff. All right, well, we'll see.
But
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I would not have picked it. I like The Night Agent. I would not have picked it as the top program for the first 6 months.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too.
Yeah.
I was surprised at Ginny and Georgia. I mean, not that it's a bad program, but I was like, I never thought that was that popular.
I've never even heard of it. I never even saw it. I didn't even watch it, but it's okay. All right, well, let's move on to the movies. We got about 3.5 minutes here. We'll start off with Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget.
Oh, did you realize the first Chicken Run came out like 23 years ago?
We were just talking about this. We were just talking about this yesterday or day before. Elf That classic, which we think of as one of the latest Christmas movies, came out 20 years ago. 20 years ago. It's just mind blowing.
Oh, and Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. Oh God, they never should have brought this one out at all. Oh dear God, it is on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie, and what we see is we've caught up with Ginger and Rocky years after they escaped the farm. They're now living in almost like a chicken hippie commune where all their chicken friends live as free rangers on this island, but the humans are finding them and taking the chickens someplace, and the chickens think they're being taken to some sort of adventure land. It's called Chicken Fun Land, and look, on the truck that they take you in, you get to ride in this bucket. Oh, you don't want to ride in the bucket, people. And that's what they discover. And now Ginger and Rocky are trying to break back into the farm to save their friends and someone very special, their own daughter.
This is it was a pretty funny. The original one was pretty funny. Mel Gibson and stuff. It was great.
Yes.
How does this one compare?
This one, it doesn't have the sarcasm, the underlying subtext. It doesn't have kind of the wittiness that the original had. This one is just very loud and boring. It's like a half-witted distraction. It's meant to like be the babysitter for your kids.
Wow.
Just put the little kids in front of the TV so you can go off and wrap Christmas presents. I mean, there's no great. It's all slapstick action. There's no real great dialogue. There's horrible cliches. I mean, they've ruined the Rocky character. They've made him the typical put upon dumb husband that we see everywhere we turn. I'm going like one waffle for Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget.
And that feels like you're being generous at that point. Just to everything you just said. Everything you just said. Would you like to revise your answer, sir? Because it just.
Yeah, maybe I'll take it down to half. I'm taking it down to a half.
A half, because you were like, "Oh, this is the most dumb thing ever." All right, okay. So that takes us over to the new Timothée Chalamet movie, which is Wonka. It's a prequel to the original Willy Wonka. Give me the rundown.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, how did he become Willy Wonka? Like, how did he get started? And you can't deny it is a magical looking movie. Just the way it looks. Kind of the chocolate creations that he makes, a very beautiful and horrifying, depending on if you're in the rich part of town or the poor part of town, right? I think that, Chalamet is a little bit overboard with his portrayal. I think that, there are times when he's kind of warm and kind, and then it's almost like he feels he has to bring in this deranged angle from moment to moment. And overall, I just don't know if the kids are going to get this battle that he has, the central plot line being that the evil chocolate cartel is trying to keep him down and stop him with their evil corporate evilness. I don't know if kids are going to get that.
They don't know if they can get that. Well, I haven't seen I've seen some of the rushes, and Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa sounds hysterical, but we're out of time.
That's good.
-1 to 4 waffles. Give it to me for Wonka.
2.5 waffles because it is undeniably cool to watch.
Okay. All right. Well, I can live with that. I love that. Nobody is Wonka but Gene Wilder. I'll say that no matter what,
Yeah.
All right. Well, Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. My friend, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. We will see you in 2024. Okay.
Oh, I'll be there with bells on.
All right. Thank you so much, folks. Out of time. Monday. It's the beginning of the Christmas slide. We will see you then. All right, after show time, let's break it down. Give me this one. I mean, from start, because I got to be honest, Willy Wonka is a movie that holds a special place in my heart. I watched that thing. I had it on Betamax. Okay, let me date myself. I had that movie on Betamax, and I watched it so many times. Grandpa Joe, Violet Beauregard, Mike TV. I mean, just the whole crew. And here's Gene Wilder just being, he's comforting. Then he's creepy, then he's insane, and then he's back to being. I don't know. He is Willy Waffle. He is Willy Waffle. He is Willy Waffle. He is Willy Wonka. And so that, and then you watch. I like Johnny Depp, but you watch the Johnny Depp one, and I'm sorry, just the Tim Burton treatment of the Wonka world was just. It was too weird. Okay, I mean, it was just too weird. So I'm hoping that this can come back from something like that. Give me the full rundown. I've said my piece. Give me your rundown here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. It's kind of in between Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the classic Willy Wonka. And I think Chalamet is trying to kind of pull in elements of both of those Willy Wonkas to mixed effects. I think Gene Wilder was a lot more smooth and I think picked his moments better to show more of a creepy side to Willy Wonka or a more frightening side to Willy Wonka. Here, I feel like Chalamet just kind of throws it out there just to say, well, we did that. So I think that part doesn't work very well. I like. I'm with you. I think Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa is hilarious, and the story that they give to how he gets involved in Willy Wonka's life is the highlight of the movie, and his appearances after that, and his role after that is the highlight of the movie. Okay, so that's very enjoyable. There is a classic, evil character that's trapped Willy Wonka in a horrible contract, and Willy Wonka uses his brains and his inventiveness to find ways to keep overcoming obstacles, and that's fun to watch. The supporting cast is okay. No one stands out in a massive way. But I really just was kind of taken aback, like I said, about this whole story that essentially he wants to be the next great chocolatier, and there is basically a chocolate cartel. These three major companies that all work together to keep everybody else out and keep everybody else down. And it gets, I think, a little bit dangerous for kids to be watching. I think that it gets a little bit ham-handed in its villainy, and I, as an adult, know that, oh yeah, stuff like that happens with corporations, but kids don't. And kids shouldn't have
Right. Maybe you got a
to
little
see
too
that.
maybe you got a little too deep in the morass there with it.
Yeah. But it's entertaining. Like I said, I can't get over just how cool it looks, how magical it looks. I mean, it does look like another world, and I think that's where they really put their bread and butter. That's where they really put all their interest and their energy and their money to really create a wild world, and that is successful.
Good. And then Hugh Grant steals the rest of the show, is what you're saying.
He really does. And the hilarious part is I've seen him do interviews about the movie where he just can't say enough bad things about how much he hated doing it. He says, I had to wear one of those suits with all the plastic balls all over it, and it's hot and it's uncomfortable, and I can't believe I do this anymore. The only reason I'm acting anymore is because I have to feed my family. This is just a horrible profession. I'm thinking, dude,
wow,
this is not driving up to the price tag for your next contract.
Wow, really?
Okay?
So he's just talking trash. Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, some people, he's a little bitter after he got caught with a hooker. So, I mean, I guess that's just one of those things. What are you going to do?
And I don't think he's taking to aging very well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, my friend. Well, good stuff. I appreciate it. I really wish you a Merry Christmas and a good time off. And
thank you.
We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you in the new year, brother. Thanks so much.
Hey, you got it. I will be thinking of you as the snow falls and I'm drinking my hot chocolate.
Oh man, the snow is falling here like crazy. You can cap some.
Yeah, baby.
I'll give you some. I'll send you some here in a box. All right. Thanks, Willie. I appreciate it. Okay, folks, that's it. Monday, Christmas memories. Tuesday, Christmas memories. Wednesday, Mike Shower, Christmas memories. Tuesday, it'll be Brad Keithley and Chris Story with Christmas memories. We're just gonna have fun. Just gonna have fun. All right, I'm done. I'll see you guys on Monday.
we've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Michael.